Good afternoon. This is Spirit Journey. Today is May 3rd, 2015, and it is 3:45 p.m. Today I want to talk about the book by Vera Courtenay, The Age of I Know, Unmasking the Magicians, The Bible Exposed. This one is my the second edition that was printed. I first got her book in December 2014, and when I got the book, I didn't expect that what was in it was in it, you know. I did not know that she's going to discuss the Anunnaki. I've heard of the term, and I just, I just didn't take it seriously. However, when I read the author's book, it made me very, very anxious. I've mentioned on YouTube before that I was raised, in my early 20s, I adopted Christianity as my faith system, and was born and raised in a Judeo-Christian society in the United States, and that's what my paradigm was. And so reading this book, it was shaking my paradigm system, and so that's what really caused my anxieties. And I had to put it down, as I mentioned before. I put it down for like a month. I did have the great opportunity to talk with the author, and she explained many things to me. But I still wasn't fully, comfortable with the idea. I was seeking. I am a seeker. Even before I found out about this book, I had stopped going to church. My last time being at church was the last Sunday of 2013. I felt restless. I was attending this particular church for about 2 years, and I just felt I was going around in circles, and I was wondering what the whole point was for me going to this church. I even joined a ministry of the church to make me feel more grounded in the church, maybe, to make me feel more a part of it. But I didn't feel a part of it. I felt that I didn't belong there. I mean, not that anyone did anything wrong. No one did anything against me. But I just didn't feel that that's where my purpose was, in life, and that I needed to move on. And to even further still, when I stopped going to that church in 2013, December 2013, I even stopped giving my tithes and offering. Prior to this church, I did attend this other church, and even when I stopped going to that one, I was still sending my money, my tithes and offerings. But this time, in 2013, I felt, I'm just going to cut all ties. And then I found out, I started watching Vera 747's YouTube channel even more closely. Not because I stopped going to that church, but I was watching her work, and I was curious about, her, evolving, I saw that her channel was, the content of the material she was presenting was different, changing slowly. And so I guess I was curious where she was headed, so that's why I continued watching her channel. And then in December 2014, in November 2014, she announced that she had a book, and I was very curious what the book was about. Again, when I got the book, it was a little bit too much for me, and I said, I really want to find out whether this is true. you know. So I said, you know, let me go to the bookstore and see, you know, what I can find on the subject. And I even went to the library, and the books I got from the library, they were on the actual creation myth stories, the ancient Mesopotamian mythology stories. I just couldn't get into it. I took up these books from the library for about 2.5 months. It was just last week that I returned them, and I just felt unsettled. It just wasn't happening. And the books that I bought from the bookstore, I was reading some of them, but on the back of my mind, I have this on my mind, and I said, well, if my anxiety is due to the information of this book, because she's very specific, and her thesis, if I can say that, if I can use that term, is that the story of the Bible, the gods that you hear about in the Bible, are actually people who they call the Anunnaki, and they originate from another planet. And that it's all about, controlling us, and that the Bible is just, in essence, a story, for the Anunnaki's well-being and not ours. So, that was a lot to swallow. So I said, I can't, avoid this book. I have it, and, she gave me the revised edition. So I said, let me just put down those books that I got from the bookstore, focus on this one, go in it, read it bit by bit, and write your notes on it. And if a assertion is given in this book, look it up, look up the information, So 2 days ago I said, just do it. So it's like 5 months since I first got this book, and it's the first time I'm actually, starting to dig into it and look up some of the assertions that are made in this book. So this video will be the first of other videos that will follow to discuss the assertions that are made in this book, what I found, and it's part of my spirit journey, as this my YouTube channel is named. And just like Vera 747, who authored this book, she's also going on her journey as well. And as she learns more, she'll share more. And so, same with me. What I learn, I want to share also with my YouTube viewers. And it's about me finding out more about myself, so that I will also achieve that sense of liberation, So I read up to chapter 6 so far, and I think chapter 6 is a very important chapter of laying down the foundation of her thesis about the Anunnaki, about these gods, that aren't really gods. And chapter 6 is entitled The Testament of Job, a Clue That Shocked. Now, I never even heard of the Testament of Job. I initially thought the author was using a variation of the name, the Book of Job. Not at all. The Testament of Job and the Book of Job are actually two separate books. The Testament of Job, which chapter 6 in the author's book discusses, is a apocryphal book, a book that is not included in our standard 666 book of the Bible. You know, it gives, you know, an account on Job, but it gives certain information that the book of Job, which is a canonized book that is included in the 666 standard book that we know of today. And so in reading this chapter, on page 49 of it, I wrote some notes about it, and in the first paragraph, the last portion of it, I put like a little asterisk that this is something, information that I need to look up, you know. And this section says, okay, upon my initial findings of the said book, I used it as a support of the YHWH, the Bible name of God, for in it he makes his presence known to a character who was appointed by him at a time during the pre-Israelite nation's existence. And then the next paragraph, what I thought was what I need to also look up, it was, okay, in fact, the tale of even the biblically approved book of Job began at the beginning of Joseph's reign in Egypt. Okay, so with that, with those, you know, portion that I read out, I asked myself some questions. I needed to find out when the Testament of Job was written. And so I have here that the Testament of Job was written between the 1st century BC or the 1st century AD. And that information I got on Wikipedia. Okay. Who actually wrote this book? It's not known. Okay. Let's see. I also have here that it's not sure when this Job, when he lived, but it's believed that he was born after the flood and before Moses. So the time frame that would be is from 2350 BC to 1750 BC. Okay. But I also add here that in the first chapter of the Testament of Job, that Job, it tells us that Job is actually married to Jacob's daughter, and Jacob is the patriarch who had the 12 sons, and he had one daughter, and Job was married, according to this version, to Dinah. Okay, and I have here also that Jacob was living at the time of 2000 BC. Okay, so there's a time frame. There's a difference between when the book was actually written and when the account of the story of Job took place. It's a big gap. Okay, I always thought, you know, when I used to go to church and read the Bible at home, that everything that I was reading was written at the time of it actually being done, you know, the event. Not at all. Not at all. So with this book, the Testament of Job, and the biblical account, it's about from 1900 to 2100 years after the account of Job's life. Okay, so that's a big gap, you know. Okay, then I also wanted to ask myself, you know, for comparison with the Let's see. Okay, I'm just reading my notes here. Okay, I wanted to know when the book of Job, you know, the book that is canonized, when that was written. And again, you know, it's you have different of opinions when this book was written. According to biblica.com, it says that it was written at the time of King Solomon and between the Babylonian exile. So I looked up the time of Solomon and the Babylonian exile. So I have here from the 10th century BC to the late 6th century BC. But then again, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, it says that it was written in different segments, different segments of time. You know, it wasn't just written at one instance. It was spread over a period of time. That, according to them, one part of the book of Job was written at the 6th century BC, and then another portion was from 6th century BC to the 4th century BC, and then another portion was even after that time. Okay, so if I want to find out the time frame between when the book of Job was written and the actual count of the story when it's supposed to have taken place, it's from 1400 years to 1600 years after the account of Job, you know, when the story takes place. So the Testament of Job, there is a shorter gap from when it was written to the account, you know, the actual count of when it takes place, versus 1900 to 2100 years for the Testament of Job to be written. Okay, I thought that was important, you know. So I guess it's about information. So you have a story and then the information is written. Again, I don't know whether these stories were initially was orally given out, or that, you know, so, you know, how was it transferred, you know, the information. So it seems like it might have been told orally and then they finally put it on, you know, parchment, you know, it was written down in some form. Okay. So also in answering the question on page 49 in chapter 6 of the author's book here, you know, on the Testament of Job, a clue that shocked, yes, that according to the Testament of Job, the YHWH was known by the pre-Israelite nation formation. Okay, so here the author wanted to try to link, you know, with the thesis about YHWH, you know, when it got introduced to the Israelites. So before they became a nation, you know, that they knew about YHWH, you know, at least Job did. And again, Job was married, you know, his second wife, his first wife, and his children with that first wife had died. He had remarried and married Dinah, you know, Jacob's daughter, and they had children together. And those children also were included, at least in my understanding, those children were also part of became part of the nation of Israel when they moved as a family to Egypt, and then they, you know, came back after they were got their freedom from bondage from Egypt. Okay. I also wanted to look up when YHWH YHWH was introduced in the Bible, you know, and I have what's called a Strong's Concordance, and what a strong concordance is, it's based on the King James version of the Bible, and every word in that Bible is given a number, so you can track down any instance when a particular word is used, and so it's assigned a number. So I looked up the word God and the word Lord, and I wanted to find out, you know, at what instance is the YHWH introduced. Okay, so I have here that, okay, that I notice also that sometimes with the YHWH, sometimes, you know, in our English language, sometimes they spell it out as Lord or God. You know, Lord, all caps, and then the word God. And the first instance that I could find using the Strong's Concordance was in Genesis 2, verse 4. And the number for the YHWH, according to the Strong's Concordance, is the Hebrew word number 3068. Okay? And then the second instance that it's given the YHWH is in Genesis 6:5. Okay? And then with, let's see, and the first time that YHWH is addressing Abram, and he's later called Abraham, is in Genesis 12, chapter 12, verse 1. And they use the term Lord, and they use the same number, Strong's number 3068. And then the first time YHWH talks to Abrams using the Lord God form of the name is in Genesis 15, verse 2. That's 15, verse 2. And the Strong's number is a little different. It's 3069. So I see with names, they might have slight variations of the name, you know, like let's say Dad and Daddy, you know. So slight variations in it, but it's the same person, okay? I thought it was also important to look up with Exodus, because that's where, you know, everything seems to really be happening, and I was curious to know when YHWH appears in the book of Exodus in our Bible. And the first time in Exodus that the YHWH is used is in Exodus chapter 3, verse 2, and they use the term Lord. And then the second time, well, the first time it uses Lord God for the term is Exodus 23, verse 17, okay? So you can look up those terms of you know, what was going on during, you know, those scripture verses that is used, you know. I was going to read it out, but for length, you know, I want to keep it shorter, this video, because it's already getting kind of long, okay? Okay, I write here in my notes that the storyline of Job did exist during the pre-Israelite nation as verified in the Testament of Job. It is also discussed in the book of Job in chapter 2 of a group of gods with who are with Yahweh, okay? Because our author of this book is is building up her story that there's more than one God, and then you have a God that is trying to put supremacy over the other ones, you know. And then I have here in my notes, let's see, then in the Testament of Job, Job inquires who is the supreme God, and YHWH says to him, you know, says that it's him, Job agrees to remove all the other gods from his land, and this is what provokes Satan's attack upon him. Because, you know, in the book of Job, you know, he's a rich man, he has a family, he's well liked, and calamity happens. Everything, he loses everything, his family, his fortune, and the Testament of Job goes more in detail, you know, behind the scene, why it happened. So when, you know, Job in the Testament of Job was noticing all these different things that people were worshiping, there were so many different gods, and he inquired and he wanted to know who's the supreme God, and YHWH manifested to him, you know, audibly, and because of that he, you know, put his allegiance to this God, and that's when the fight began, you know. And I guess with the author of this book is saying, you know, that's a pivotal point, because from this point on, you know, since he's married into the Israelite family, he and his descendants also take on, embrace this YHWH, and they give all their allegiance to this God. Okay, I write here also that in both accounts of Job, you know, the book of Job and the Testament of Job, that they were both written after the nation of the Israelites were formed. And that is also why they use the term, you know, the author of who actually physically wrote this book would use the term YHWH, because they themselves most likely were Israelites, and the Israelites used that term to denote, you know, the God that they worship, you know. So the author, you know, makes mention that that's what they're using, you know, but that is the term that they knew as Israelites. Okay. And then, let's see, I also write down, like, the author in the end of chapter 6 makes mention about this jealous God. Okay. And I wanted to, because she's mentioning that, okay, on page 51 of chapter 6 in her book, she makes mention about, you know, that there's a pantheon of gods. And in the book of Job, that, you know, Satan, along with the sons of God, and the sons of God in that instance is the Elohim. So Elohim had a collective, and in that collective you also had the YHWH at that time, I found out. And later on, you know, in the Bible, it talks, you know, YHWH says that he's a jealous God. And the author says that this story is a clue to her freedom. So I wrote down, okay, when I looked at the Strong's Concordance, I looked up the term jealous to find out where in the Bible it makes mention of YHWH being a jealous God. And they're in I found two instances. That's Exodus chapter 20 verse 5 And the second instance, Exodus chapter 34, verse 14. Okay, so this was, so also this, so the author is putting together, like it's painting a picture, I guess, to her, and that you have an introduction of a jealous God, and that in the book of Job and the Testament of Job, it's a collective of gods, and all this melee seems to be happening ever since, and following this nation called Israel. And she is seeing, I guess, like patterns, and this led her to read other books, because she's saying, hey, there's more than one, what's going on? And she's reading other books. On page 52 in chapter 6, she said that she started to read other world mythologies, Vedic texts, the Bhagavad Gita's, books by Zechariah Sitchin, and the Koda Hammurabi and the Enuma Elish. These are all books, very old books. Zechariah Sitchin, he's modern, but the others that I mentioned are ancient books on histories on early man, or women, I should say. So, so she's expanding her mind with information, and that she's seeing similar stories, and it just seems to somehow fit in together. So, so this is the end of this part 1 of my series in analyzing this book, to help me find out more about who I am, and who is this YHWH, and are they really linked to the Anunnaki. So take care and enjoy, and let me know if you have any questions. Please feel free to subscribe, share, and discuss with others. Take care and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.